Greetings and good day, everybody. My name is Bry, the Boy Canuck, and one of my favorite video games of all time is Tales of Symphonia, originally released for the Nintendo GameCube. Unfortunately, I've had to put up with Namco Bandai Games constantly re-releasing the game in less than stellar qualities ever since the game was originally ported to the PlayStation 2 due to the poor sales of the GameCube. Now, granted, I didn't have to put up with the PlayStation 2 version directly, but I've been putting up with it ever since they re-released the game on PlayStation 3 for the Tales of Symphonia Chronicles collection. For whatever reason that be, Namco has decided that every single version of Tales of Symphonia that gets re-released needs to be the PlayStation port instead of the superior GameCube release. And as a result of this has led to a number of problems with the recently released Tales of Symphonia, in massive air quotes here, Remaster on the Nintendo Switch. Problems that aren't present in other games ported to the Nintendo Switch. Persona 5 Royal, for example. I've played Persona 5 Royal on the Switch. I've played it on the PlayStation 5, not the PlayStation 5 version in and of itself, the PS4 version running on the PlayStation 5. And, you know, comparing that to the Switch version, yeah, the Switch version obviously doesn't compare to the PlayStation 4 version. It's slightly lower quality, but I think the quality of Persona 5's Switch port is miles beyond what we got with Tales of Symphonia. And what really ticks me off about that is that Persona 5 is a PlayStation 3 game. The original Persona 5 was released for the PlayStation 3. We have a game that they reworked and re-released for the PlayStation 4. Sorry. Yeah, they did do a PlayStation 4 port. That was the first Royal Edition. Then Persona 5 Royal got the Switch, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X ports, and the Switch version still runs pretty decently. Regardless, we have this great port of Persona 5 Royal on Switch, which is this much newer game, but then we get Tales of Symphonia, which released years prior, and the port for the Switch is an absolute train wreck. I seriously don't understand how Namco Bandai Games let the game get released in such a critical state. Like, if this is how Kingdom Hearts was gonna be if it released physically on Switch, which I highly doubt, because there's no reason a game from that early on should be performing like this, then I fully understand why Square would have decided to put the game up as a cloud edition instead. But again, there's no reason for it. This game is old. We shouldn't be having such a problem running this game. And I've actually got a small list here. Like, I've been ranting pretty much without a script here. No script is involved, but I do have some notes here just from my first 2 hours of the game. Like, I'm not kidding here. I haven't even cleared the first seal. I haven't done the seal of Ifrit in the Triet Desert yet. That is bare bones beginning of the game, and I have a list of 10 problems here compared to all the previous versions I've played. The GameCube version, the PlayStation 3 version, and even the PC version. I have a list of 10 items here of these inferior qualities with the remaster on Switch. And this is just Switch. I'm not sure if the PlayStation 4 or Xbox versions are bad. You know what, give me a sec, I'm gonna go have a look. Okay, so real quick, I couldn't find anything on the Xbox version of the game, but the one playthrough of the PlayStation 4 version I did see did not have some of these problems, and fixed. Okay, so here are my 10 problems with Tales of Symphonia within the first 2 hours. Problem number 1. The game has multiple loading screens that are not present in previous versions of the game. Now, this has been a thing since the original PlayStation 2 re-release. For whatever reason, whether it was because the GameCube version was on 2 discs, and the PlayStation 2 version was not, or if the GameCube was actually more powerful than the PlayStation 2. I don't know. I don't care. Ever since that PlayStation 2 port happened, there have been multiple loading screens in various areas of Tales of Symphonia, which were not present in the original GameCube release. When you would transition from the map to the overworld, it would be instantaneous. Maybe at most 1 second, and that was it. In this re-release, on much superior hardware, I want to emphasize this point, much superior hardware, there is a 3 to 5 in fact, I've compared it. It's straight up 5 seconds no matter what version you're playing. It is about 5 seconds worth of loading screens for the overworld map. And this is technically, my 4th listed complaint on this list as well. So this is number 1 and number 2. Number 2 being the 5 seconds of loading screen just for the overworld map. There are plenty of loading screens in other areas. Trying to go from the upper floor to the lower floor of the cathedral where you get Colette's Crucis Crystal. I would get a second or 2 of load time there with this stupid... I personally really hate the loading icon for this game. It's literally just this... the stone tablet thingy that you see in the main artwork that doesn't appear anywhere in the actual fucking game, just idly sitting in your corner, rotating. They couldn't have come up with anything more original. It shows the care and quality that didn't go into this port. But no, every time you go to the overworld map, you get 5 seconds of loading. And this is present in the PlayStation 4 version as well. And this happens every time you go back to the overworld. Not just when you're leaving a town or a village or dungeon or whatever. This happens when you encounter an overworld fight. When you fight enemies in the overworld, you beat them up and you're like, alright. The game loads for another 3 to 5 seconds to get you back in the overworld. This happens every single fight. This is not in any of the original versions I've played. I've never had to put up with this long of a load time for the overworld. The next thing I have to complain about, which is technically number 3 on my list, so, technically it was 9 things. Shut up. is transitions to battle. Now, this is a problem that isn't present on the PlayStation 4 version, but is present on the Switch version. When you would normally enter a battle, your screen would start to crack in multiple areas and then shatter. The pieces would scatter forward and you would then transition to the battle. This isn't on the Switch version. What we instead get on the Switch version is we get a cut to white. We still hear the shatter sound, but it's just white screen until the battle comes in. And again, this is apparently something that's only on the Switch version. I can't speak for the Xbox version, but this is not present in the PlayStation 4 version. The transition works there, it doesn't work here in the Switch, so I don't understand what's going on here. I think there might be something wrong with how the game handles transparency, because the next thing on my list, actually, number 4 here, is transparency elements in the UI are no longer transparent. So, say for example, when you activate a skit, when the character boxes appear and the characters talk with each other, that's supposed to be transparent. You're supposed to see whatever you were doing beforehand. So if you were walking around in Essalia and you get a skit with Lloyd and Genus and you hit the skit button, the screen goes a little dark, but you can still see what you were doing there. You can still see Essalia in the background while Lloyd and Genus's heads bobble around on the screen. In the Switch version, the screen just goes completely black and the character heads pop up. When you access the menu, it goes completely dark. And the thing about this, there's still setting, I'm pretty sure at least, there are still settings in the options that let you tone this down, but it just doesn't work. So there's an element of the UI that's just completely non-functional. Of the options UI, that's just completely non-functional. It's there, you can mess with it, but it don't do jack or shit. So, most of these have just been user interface problems, besides the loading screen. But let me hit you with one that is present in the Switch version. I can't confirm this with the PlayStation 4 version because the footage I did see did not go to this area. When you're in the village of Triet, if you go towards the Oasis, or if a sandstorm kicks up, actually, hang on a second, I can actually double check this on the Switch, on the PlayStation version. I'll be right back. And I can confirm that this is another Switch exclusive problem. Oh boy! There is slowdown in the desert town of Triet due to the sandstorm raging on. So, when you go to the Oasis, and when you come back from the Renegade base, you'll see this actual sandstorm whipping up around your characters, like, blowing sand all over the place. And when this happens on the Switch version, the game slows down tremendously. Like, it's not a PowerPoint presentation, but it's pretty damn close. This was not present in any other version of the game, and as far as I can tell, it's not present in the PlayStation and Xbox versions. I didn't see it at the Oasis, but when you go back to the from the Renegade base to Triet, you see a cutscene of Lloyd and Gina saying, "Hey, let's go sleep at the inn." That slowed down for me on Switch. It didn't slow down for the PlayStation 4 version. So there's slowdown in the game. There's slowdown! Oh, and another thing, this is one I forgot to put on the list, so, we do have 10 things, thank God. I experienced Pop-In! When I went to the cathedral outside of Iselia. During the cutscenes, Lloyd, Genus, Colette, and the Renegades popped into the scene. I have footage here. I'm playing it right now. They popped in. I wasn't aware I was playing Tales of Symphonia running on the Sonic Frontiers engine. What is this? What even is this? I cannot fathom this. How this version of the game came out so bad. It hurts me that this game has released in such a terrible state. Next, I have a few smaller things here that I'm just going to list off as quick as I can. There's some slight input lag after you use the Sorcerer's Ring, and that was always present, but now it's a little worse. Like, the second you use the Sorcerer's Ring, there's a full, second and a half that you're stuck standing there. Because, Lloyd will hold on to his using the Sorcerer's Ring animation. In the previous versions, Lloyd would put up his hand, whoosh, the flame would go out, and as soon as the sound effects stopped playing, Lloyd would put his hand down. In this one, you put up your hand, you do the thing, bling! His hand is still up there for a second before it goes back down. Next up, there are various textures that are still pretty low quality. The main cast of characters, Lloyd, Genus, Rain, Colette, all of them, their textures look fine. They look like they were taken into Photoshop and up-resed using the Sharpen tool, but they still look decent. But then you get to characters like Boda, and his textures still look like a garbled mess. Like they only focused on fixing the main cast and crew, they didn't bother fixing up NPCs, even story vital NPCs. Boda is a very important character, and they just kind of leave his textures as we pulled your clothes out of the garbage, have fun, bye. Next, the sound cuts during loading screens, which didn't even when there was a notable bit of load time in the other versions I've played, the music wouldn't abruptly stop like this. I remember it would keep playing, or it would slow fade out, or not slow fade. It would fade out. It wouldn't just abruptly stop. It abruptly stops here. And I lose out on the first little chunk of music in the next area. So when I enter Iselia, for example, it's supposed to go, ba-na-na, na-na-na. When I enter Iselia in this version, I don't get that bana at the beginning. I just go to na 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 na. It irks me to my soul more than my nanas are probably irking you. I apologize. And finally, this one's more of a personal nitpick. It takes away from... I'm not the kind of person to describe this, because I am a character artist. I am not an animation expert. I'm not oh, you know, this should have like a tilt to it. It should have this to it. It scenes where the camera would move in villages and towns, it doesn't move here. Like the scene where Lloyd, Colette, and Janice are talking about it being Colette's birthday, and Lloyd saying like, oh yeah, I'll make your present soon. The camera's supposed to like move around the area slightly. It doesn't do that here. I'm not sure if this is a fault of the PlayStation 2 version, or if it's just something I never noticed until, like it's something I never noticed till now, or if it's just a problem with this version, but it's a problem that I'm gonna point out. And finally, this is the big one for me, because this actually does straight up affect the gameplay in a negative mannerism. Like, most of the other things I've mentioned here are nitpicks. Like the Sorcerer's Ring, yeah, that could possibly mess you up on timing out your certain puzzles, but it's not the end of the world. This one does straight up affect gameplay, and it's something that needs to be addressed. The battles start faster than in previous versions of the game. The way battles start in this game is, after you see that glass transition I mentioned earlier, the screen would scroll from right to left towards your characters, and it would show you, okay, here's the enemies that are on screen, go at them. They cut out that camera movement. So now the battle, when it cuts away, the battle just immediately starts. And I've ended up getting pot-shotted a number of times because of this. Like, I'm expecting to see, okay, there's a wolf, there's an eagle, there's a rabbit or two. But instead, the transition happens, I'm recovering from the flash of white that hits me, and then suddenly, I'm being bitten by a wolf. Because, like, the wolf just immediately lunged at me. I didn't have time to register, oh, I'm fighting a wolf, a bird, and 2 rabbits. This is something that's technically minor. You can get over it once you know what you're doing. But it's nice to know what the hell you're fighting, isn't it? And again, I want to keep you guys... I just want to remind you guys. This is all within the first 2 hours of the game. Not even the first full 2 hours. Within the first 2 hours. So, this is before I even got to the Triet Ruins to unleash the first seal. Okay, I'm not even close to thinking I'm a quarter of the way in. I don't even think I'm a 16th of the way into the story. And I was able to come up with these 10 issues that are plaguing the Switch version, and several of these are also plaguing the PlayStation version. This is a game that is close to 20 years old. This game will be 20 years old next year. Actually, no. It's 20 years old this year, come August. This game turns 20 years old. The Switch, the PlayStation, and the Xbox should not have these problems running a 20-year-old game. How can the Switch run a game that isn't 20 years old, but it has problems running a fucking 20-year-old game? I seriously don't understand. I don't understand how the Switch can run Persona 5, which was released back in 2014, without half of these problems that I just mentioned, but this 20-year-old game does. This 20-year-old game has loading screens. This 20-year-old game has lag. This 20-year-old game has slowdown. This 20-year-old game has pop-in! That wasn't present in the original release! This game did not get treated with the respect it deserves. Tales of Symphonia is an extremely important RPG for the Tales of franchise. It's an extremely important RPG for me. Because not counting Pokemon or Paper Mario, this was my first true JRPG. You know, for everyone's like, oh, Pokemon's baby's first RPG. And you could argue the same thing for Paper Mario. This was what I consider my first true JRPG. This is why I play Persona 5. This is why I try other RPGs. And they fucked it up. There is no reason this game should be performing the way it does. This is not a remaster. That needs to be said. This is not a remaster. Pac-Man got a better remaster, and he lost his wife in that remaster. The only thing that would have been worse for Tales of Symphonia is if it pulled a Kingdom Hearts and got a cloud port. That's the only thing that would have been worse. We are a step up from cloud port. The original version of a game should not be the definitive version of a game. If a game gets a re-release, you should be telling people you know, maybe not including the price tag, to buy the new version of the game because it is a superior version of that game. And I hate to say this, I wouldn't tell anyone to buy the Tales of Symphonia Remaster as it is right now. If you are curious about Tales of Symphonia in any way, shape, or form, do not buy these remasters until they get fixed. Watch a Let's Play. Buy it on Steam and mod it. That's a better way to play this game because it actually performs decently once you install the mod. I shouldn't have to tell you that the best way to play a game is the broken PC version with a mod that fixes it. Namco should be ashamed of themselves. This is not a remaster. This is whatever the opposite of a remaster is. This is a demaster. They've treated this game with no respect on any of its re-releases. They didn't give it respect with the sequel game. They didn't give it respect with the PlayStation 2, 3, or PC ports. And they didn't give it any respect here. So I'm not giving you any respect. Namco, fix your game. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening to me rant about this. Tales of Symphonia is an extremely important game for me. It helped shape me into who I am as a person today. So to see it get so poorly treated by its own developers, it really hurts my heart and soul to see the game in such a state. It's so important to me. That's why I had to make this video. That's why I had to complain and yell and scream. And I apologize for this being the first video of this channel, but it needed to be done. I could not let this game go without receiving the criticism it needs to. And again, just off the first 2 hours of the game. Heck, maybe even the first hour if you're not like me and you're speedrunning it or you're like grinding it. This can't stand. This is not the way to play the game. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening to me complain about my favorite game of all time getting butchered. If you like the video, I guess you could leave a like. I'm not going to be like, oh, hey, I got a like, thanks. Do whatever the heck you want to do. Subscribe, I guess. I'm hoping to make more actual scripted content in the future. You can also check out the Boy Canuck Plays channel where I do Let's Play, recordings, gameplay, stuff like that. So check out the second channel that I've been putting more focus to instead of the main channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have yourselves a good day, eh?